What a crowd, what a crowd. All right, guys. Hey, we're looking at a very, very bad heat wave right now. And you guys come out in the heat, you come out in the snow, you come out in the ice. I can't say thank you enough. This is probably the most loyal audience that anybody's ever had. Thank you. God bless you all for making this trip. Appreciate it. And we got a good show for you tonight. Thank you. Thank you. We got a good show for you tonight. We changed the format a little bit from what we've been doing for over 30 some odd years. And I've got a very good friend of mine from many, many years ago who's very interesting. And he's got a lot of information that he's going to be able to present. And I really want you to ask questions. Don't be bashful. When the time comes, we'll have a little question and answer. And I'm sure there's some of the information from the past that you would like to know, which will be actually almost like trivia. It'll be almost trivia. Questions that you wanted to know about the industry, this industry itself, and he'll be able to give you some information. And so will I, of course. We started out together as at 16, 17 years old. But what I'm talking about it. I don't want to get into. I want to surprise you. We're gonna surprise you with the. I don't know how I can surprise you. I think the credits already showed you who was on. But anyway, the Royalties, and this was the founding member of the Royalties. So we're gonna wait a little while. I'll introduce them, bring them out, and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. Okay? We're gonna show you a couple of stills, a couple of things pictures that he had from the past. Also, we'll play a couple of songs. We'll give you little pieces of some of the records that he recorded, and we're gonna tickle your memories a little bit. Okay, so all right, that's a great thing. Anyway, let's get into what we usually do. How about shows? Anybody out there see any recent concerts? I know with this heat weather and things like that, outdoor shows are a little rough for us. But anybody at all out there that's done this, we'll set up a microphone over here, and then you guys can come up and discuss the shows that you've seen, or that you want to see, or that some of the people out there promoting some of the shows too. So where's the mic is already set up. We have anybody? Richie?
Okay, yeah.
We got Richie Santa.
On August 23rd, I will be a night of nostalgia brought to you by the Greenbrier Activities Community. Me, Tina Turner impersonator Sheila Galilee. She is good. And Tommy Lynn will be there, and that is in Marlborough, I believe. And that is August 23rd, 8 p.m. I can't see the address. $25 a person. It's theater seating. You have to call George for tickets, 347-860-5839. And the last thing I want to tell you is that I will be at Max's Esca on Staten Island with Anthony Duke Claus, who's a great singer, a young guy setting the world on fire lately, and he will be doing his Barry Manilow tribute. And again, we'll have Tommy Lynn. Tickets are $25. You have to go to maxesesca.com for tickets, and then you have to call 718-980-5006 for reservations. And we will see you on that night.
Richie Santa. probably one of the best Elvis tribute acts out there. And I don't say that because he's here on the show. You got to catch his show. You actually think that he's been reincarnated.
Wow. Thank you, Vito.
That's all right. Anybody else? Anybody go to any concerts that you want to bring up? I know like a lot of the outdoor shows right now have been too hot to go. So anyway, but speaking of an outdoor concert, we're going to be doing the Borough President's Concert August 16th at the Boardwalk and it's not South Beach and not Midland Beach. It's actually Ocean Breeze, which is right in between. So where the flags are at the end of the boardwalk, or if you go by Staten Island Hospital straight down to Capodanno Boulevard, we'll be right there. That's a pretty good area. We got that one little section. And we usually pull about 2,000 people in that one area. So it's usually a great night. We got George Pedignano, George Pedignano has a cable show. He's going to be one of the guests there. He'll be playing that night. And Laura Lambert, who's a phenomenal talent, she's going to be actually doing the show with us. And my cousin Jimmy's going to have his group, the New Expressions, and they'll be on the same bill. So it's going to be a fun night that night. Matter of fact, Stevie's here. Stevie Mancino is with the Expressions, and he's going to be here that night. So depending on traffic, by the time he gets here to August 16th, you can't. It takes that long to get from here to the beach now. Traffic. That matter of fact, that's my pet peeve. I got it. We're going into pet peeve section here. One of them is exactly that. Traffic has been unbearable. You can't go anywhere. I know it's the same in other boroughs and the same, but Staten Island has got so congested that you can't go 10 blocks anymore in less than a half hour. It's ridiculous. And now we've got a lot of, obviously, people trying to beat the traffic, and they're coming in the bus lane. They're coming through lights. They're coming through stop signs. It's very, very dangerous out there. I'm driving out here my entire life. I've never seen anything like it. You can't time it anymore. Used to be 10 minutes to go to some place. Give that thing now 35 minutes to get to it. And it's on Staten Island. Now I speak to people now in Florida, and they're complaining now that all of a sudden Florida traffic is horrendous. It's too much. They're crazy. They're this. Bingo. Where are they from? New York. They went to Florida to escape this area, and now they're killing Florida with, they're bringing their bad habits down there. Which reminds me of another thing. I love these people when they go to Florida. They look, misery loves company, So when they go to Florida, they got to rub it in. Well, how can you stay in New York? Why don't you come to Florida? Trust me. One person sent a picture on Facebook the other day, a woman who couldn't get out of her house because when she went to the screen door, there were 2 full-size alligators on her step, and they were fighting in her house. Another one had an alligator came in the kitchen. The thing was huge, and on top of that, one of the guys that sings with me, was Gary Catalano. He's got a house down in Naples, and we were driving to one of the jobs, and he gets the buzz on his phone that tells him the lights went on in his house in Florida. All this new modern technology. It tells you everything that's going on in Florida. So he said, "Oh my God, what's the matter? Something happened?" I thought something happened with his family. He said, "No." He said, "The lights went on in my house in Naples." I said, "Well, somebody breaking in? What is it?" He said, "No, there's a bobcat on my lawn." Now, there's no way in hell am I going to Florida. You want to go lay down on the Chase Lounge, and a bobcat comes licking your face, or an alligator is taking your shoes and bringing it in the woods. I mean, what are these people, crazy or what? Come on. And I know now, we used to be only Staten Island. The show was only Staten Island. But now it's all over the world. So we've got people everywhere looking at the show. So there's probably right now people in Florida giving me the horns, But it's true. I mean, I'm not making this up. It's just, it's another world. It's another life. I'm not used to that. Like I said, I want to go in the yard and lay down and relax. You got dinosaurs coming, walking by and everything. You never know you never know what's going to be in your yard there. Like pirates, there's pirates. Get the hell out of here. Nobody's taking the Staten Island ferry. I know that. And there's no pirates taking the Staten Island ferry. Oh my God. Anyway, that's my pet. Somebody told me about that. We love the pet peeves portion of your show. So I keep thinking of pet peeves, and I always forget what my pet peeves are until I get here, and then I say, I knew I wanted to say something about this. I wanted to say something about that. I have a lot of peeves, believe me. But anyway, that one just came to mind. So we've already discussed all the other ones: the turkeys, the cameras. We got skunks now on Staten Island. That's another thing. Somebody told me there was skunks in their yard. Skunks. I had a neighbor once that stunk, but not a skunk. It's crazy. What else we wound up? Fox. There's all kinds of. What's plural for fox? Foxes, foxy, fox-eye. Few fox. There was a few fox. I know I'm going to slip and say something I shouldn't have. So, anyway, fox. A few fox was running around. And you go to the cemetery down in South Beach, there's foxes all over. There's foxes over. You go to Staten Island Hospital, there's turkeys in the trees. They sleep in the trees, and they attack you. I'm just saying, why do I don't want to go to Florida? Now I'm saying, why I don't want to stay on Staten Island? There's no place to hide anymore. Oh, my God. Anyway, those are my peeves. All right, we touch base on who's doing what and what's doing where. I want to introduce you to my good friend, Tom Austin, the founding member and still member of the Royalties, who had Who Wears Short Shorts. So, Tom Austin, everybody.
Hello. Nice to be here.
And now the Royalties singing their big record, Short Short.
Man, dig that crazy chick.
Who wears short shorts?
We wear short shorts.
Wear such short shorts.
We like short shorts.
Who wears short shorts?
We wear short shorts.
Who wears short shorts?
We wear short shorts.
Wear such short shorts.
We like short shorts.
Who wears short shorts?
We wear short shorts.
Who wears short shorts?
We wear short shorts.
Wear such short shorts.
We like short shorts.
Who wears short shorts?
We wear short shorts.
Tommy, I tell you the truth, every once in a while I get a chance to talk to you, but it brings back good memories for me, because that was a good time for both of us.
Oh, big time.
So why don't you give them a little introduction on how the Royalties started and what generated that particular, not only the group but the song itself.
Sure. Well, it all started out, we're from North Jersey. I'm from Fort Lee. And I had started out playing in the Fort Lee Police Athletic League talent show. And how this happened was the Police Athletic League up in our area, in our town, they had a baseball team, a basketball teams, boxing teams, and so I played the basketball team. I was a little kid. I was probably 8 years old, 9 years old. And I played basketball. I played baseball, but I couldn't catch the ball. And then I joined the boxing team. And that was something else also. But so what happened was one day in the boxing gym, all the kids, I joined it because it was down the street from my house, and my father said, "Get out there, do something." So I joined it, and one day this police sergeant comes in, and he says, "I'm going to start a Fort Lee talent show for the Police Athletic League. I'm going to have a talent show. Is anybody here can sing?" No, nobody ever just looked at him, he says, anybody can dance. Same thing, nothing happened, He said, how about play an instrument? Anybody play an instrument? Nothing. He says, well, does anybody have an instrument in their house? And I said, well, my uncle left his drums there. He says, you're the drummer. And that's how, so I didn't know how to set the drums up. So what happened was drummers play the hi-hat like this, right-handed drummers. I play the hi-hat over here. I'm playing left-footed and right-handed. How this worked, I don't know. But I've been doing this ever since, So I started there playing in, just local for the talent show. And everybody in Fort Lee at that time was all Italians. I would say 90% of the people in Fort Lee were Italian people because they built the bridge, And they came over from the other side to be the stonemasons and everything on the George Washington Bridge. So the MC was a guy named Alex Michelini, and Alex would tell Italian jokes. He was great, and the audience would go wild. We didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But so we did that for a while. Then I went and Holy Trinity CYO would have a minstrel show every year. Now, my mom was a singer, and my mom was Protestant, but everybody in the town liked her singing. She was really good. And Father Geiger said, Millie, would you come across the street? Because the Protestant church was across the street. Would you come across the street and sing in our minstrel? My mother said, sure, I'll do that, because she was raised Catholic, okay? So she goes across, she said, can I bring Tommy? He's a drummer. And I was playing, and I got a real good chance to play with some real musicians, which was the first time.
Wow.
And so one thing led to the other, and pretty soon I was okay, not great, but okay. And then one night I get a phone call from this guy, Joe Duranti, who lived in Hackensack, New Jersey. And Joe, they called him Fat Joe, probably because he was very fat. Fat Joe, he had this band, he was a trumpet player, and he was also a repairman for washing machines and ice boxes, because when you go to his house to rehearse, all that stuff was on the porch, He had everything outside there on the porch. So I joined that band, Joe Duranti's band, but in that band, he had another young kid, Bob Gordio. Anybody heard of Bob Gordio? Four Seasons Bob Gordio? Bobby was on piano, I was on drums, Johnny Morano was on sax, Joe Duranti on trumpet, a couple of other pieces. So the guys were older than us. Bobby and I were the youngest. And so one thing led to the other. I was 17 and I had a car. And I guess somehow I ended up taking Bobby home in the car, whatever. He was 15 at the time. And pretty soon we started talking, Bob Gordio always wanted to write his own music. He didn't want to play everybody else's music. He wanted to write his own music. So he would say, Tom, we got to start a band and write our own music. And I said, really? We got to do this? So one thing led to the other, but I'm going to let you guys in on a secret tonight that no one knows, okay? Now, you know how famous Bob Gordio is with the Jersey Boys, and he produced the Jersey Boys show. He produced A Beautiful Noise for Neil Diamond. He was with Neil Diamond for many, many years before that. And he came up with this idea for his first song. And back in those days, they wanted kids to stop dropping out of school. Kids were dropping out like crazy in the 50s. Once you became 16, you could quit school, and everybody was doing that. So he said, we got to write a song about staying in school. So he says, I have this idea to write a song called I'm Going Back to School. And the song goes like this. I'm going back to school. I ain't nobody's fool. This ain't the place for me. I should be by the sea. There's someone waiting for me. Okay? That was the first thing he wrote, I said, Jesus, that's beautiful. And so we started to play. And the thing was, he said, you know, I know a great saxophone player, Billy Crandall. Billy, did anybody ever hear of Paul Whiteman, the orchestra leader?
Sure.
Right? Paul Whiteman had a show in the early 1950s called Paul Whiteman's TV Teen Club. And what would happen is different talented young people, teenagers and stuff, would go on that show. And if you won for like 14 weeks, they'd give you a Nash Rambler. Well, Billy was about 12 years old playing that sax, and he won. And they gave him a Nash Rambler, but he couldn't drive it. So his father sold it, you know. But Bobby knew him and said, he's the perfect guy for our band. And he talked Billy Crandall into that. Now, just to jump forward a little bit, did anybody ever hear the Knickerbockers with a song called Lies?
Yeah.
Lies, can't believe a word you said.
No.
Well, Billy went on to change his name to Buddy Randall, and he formed the group the Knickerbockers, and he wrote the song Lies, okay? And he was a sax player, and then I knew a great guitar player who started out in that Fort Lee PAL band, Billy Dalton, and then we had enough people to be a band. So we kept playing, but Gordio all the time, we got to write our own songs, And he and I became very close about writing our own songs, you know. And nothing was really good at that time. We didn't know what we were doing. And but we were getting a lot of work. We were working every weekend. I was making so much money in high school, I bought a brand new Ford, 57 Ford, paid cash for it. And we were making big money, $5 a man. Right. But a new Ford then would cost $1,900, you know. It was amazing, $19,000. Yeah. So I had the Ford now, I had this 57 Ford, red and white, Mercury Cruiser skirts on it. So one day, Gordio was working on a song. He said, I got an idea for a song, you know, and he's going on. And one day we're riding up Washington Avenue in Bergenfield, New Jersey. And there was a candy store called Lumen's. And out of this candy store comes two young teenage girls, and longest legs we ever saw in our life. And they had on these cut-off jeans. There was no word called short shorts at then. They were called cutoffs. And Bobby said, look at that. I said, yeah, they're short shorts. That's what we're going to call the song, he said. And then it became Short Shorts. Oh. And then we started. So we had that 14-year-old kid playing the sax. One time we were over there above the Ed Sullivan Theater. Did you ever rehearse over there?
Yeah, sure.
And they had rehearsal halls. And we're practicing up there, and who comes by but King Curtis?
Yeah.
King Curtis hears Billy Crandall wailing on that sax. He walks in. Who's playing that? He said, that kid over there. He's not playing that. Yeah. That's how good he was. Well, as the band went on, we had a hit record, Short Shorts, okay? And then we went from playing the local CYO dance on a Friday night, on a Saturday night, on a Saturday, the following day. None of us were ever on an airplane. We got the plane tickets. We're going to go down to open with Buddy Holly and the Crickets, Bill Haley and the Comets, Jerry Lee Lewis. And here we go. We didn't know anything. We're really like CYO dance caliber, you know. We still are,
Yeah.
you know.
No.
But so we went down there and we started playing with them. And one thing led to the other, and we were in the business. But we were on a record label called ABC Paramut.
Yeah.
Vito and his group was on ABC Paramount. We actually made an album together
Absolutely.
on ABC Paramount.
A Million or More.
A Million or More.
With Paul Anka,
Oh, Paul Anka was on it.
Lloyd
Price. Ponytails.
Steve Lawrence.
Yeah. Incidentally, did you see that handsome guy on the saxophone? Did you notice that? That was Larry Qualiano. The 14-year-old Billy Crandall, his father wouldn't let him go on the road with us. Immediately, he says he's out of the group. He's got to stay in school, blah, blah, blah. And he stayed in school. So we quickly got Larry, who was a brilliant guy. Larry was so good, good-looking, the girls loved him. I didn't want him in the band because he was too good-looking, you know. But he turned out to be a great guy. I met him last year. He owns a big printing company in New Jersey. He's very successful. But what a super guy he was.
You mentioned King Curtis. King Curtis, for those of you that don't know, probably one of the best saxophone players of the rock era. He played on my first record when I was 14 years old, before we had the Elegants. I had a group called the Crescents. And he eventually went on to do Yakety Yak, which he just broke him wide open. I mean, that was such a difficult, thing at that time. When you heard somebody playing da 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 da, but that was King Curtis doing this. And King, unfortunately, he died. Actually, got stabbed. Somebody stabbed him to death on the steps in front of the house. They lived in Harlem, and I don't know whether it was somebody that knew him or if it was an argument or something. But one of the best talent, saxophone players out there, and unfortunately at a young age, another wasted talent, But he mentioned also the fact that with Billy Crandall, the song "Lies." If you get a chance, you got to Google it. If you listen to it closely, you'll think the Beatles are singing, because it came out at that era, and they had the exact sound of the Beatles, and yet it did pretty well for itself. But his group, was almost like I can't even begin to tell you. It was like a plant, and then the plant would grow, and every once in a while somebody else would become a superstar. I mean, you talk about Bob Gordio. Bob Gordio was one of the first members of the Four Seasons, and he wrote every single song that the Four Seasons did. He wrote them. He had a handshake agreement with Frankie, him and Frankie Valley. Had a handshake agreement that Frankie would get 50% of whatever they recorded. Frankie didn't write one note, but he got God knows how many millions of dollars he got for shaking hands with Bob Gordio.
Bob basically, he could write lyrics, he could write the music, but he loved to write the melodies, and he was so strong with the melodies. Over the years, he had Bob Crew writing lyrics. I was writing lyrics on some of the things. He had several guys writing lyrics with him, but he could do both. But he just was really into the melodies.
Right.
Brilliant guys.
And then you had another miracle, too, come out of there.
Oh, we had...
How about Blood, Sweat, and Tears?
Well, the thing is, we need Billy Dalton, the guitar player I told you about. His father, he was going to All Hallows High School in New York. And his father said, he's got to go to college, that's it, So we had to get another guitar player. And there was this guitar player hanging around 1650 Broadway. He'd leave school, and he was like 14 also. And he'd hang out in room 1111. That was where Leo Rogers, our manager, was. And he'd hang out all the time, His name was Al Cooper. And Al started playing with us. He wouldn't tell his mother he's going on the road. And we would go for like weekend jobs up to Worcester, Mass, and places like that. And we'd say, "Does your mother know you're going?" "No, but I'm not telling her. They won't miss me till Monday." Oh, it was crazy. But Al went on to start Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And he played in the Blues Project, and he played with Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix. Oh my God, I was so lucky. I don't have much of a future, but I'll tell you, I got a hell of a past.
Like I said, there were so many. You want to go one step further? How about Joe Villa?
How many people heard that song Blanche? You know Blanche?
Blanche by the Three Friends.
Joe Villa was in the group. He was our lead singer. We brought him in early in the group. He was the guy who actually discovered the group. I had mentioned the Holy Trinity CYO, the Holy Trinity minstrel shows up there. And the north end of Fort Lee was called Coitesville. That's where I grew up. And that was where Holy Trinity Church was. And Father Geiger, they used to call him Father Geiger and the 40 Thieves, because every time they had a CYO dance, all the hubcaps in town would be gone. So the police called him, "Oh, geez, Father Geiger and the 40 Thieves."
Joe Villa was probably one of the funniest people I have ever met in my life. He was just quick and funny. And he told me a story one time after many years later, after the industry had changed and he was no longer singing. And he was a driver. He was a chauffeur for the CEO, I think, of American Express or something like that. And Blanche comes on the radio, and he pulls it up a little bit, and he tells the CEO in the back seat, he said, "By the way," he said, this is my record." He turns it up, and the guy in the back seat said, "You made that record?" He said, "Yeah." "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Make a left over here, Joe." Make a left over here.
Oh, Joe,
like it meant nothing, to him.
Joe was. Everybody loved Joe, but he was off the wall, this guy. But he was so crazy that it was wonderful. But he could really sing. Gordio sensed it immediately. Well, see, how this happened at Holy Trinity Church. Joe Villa and his group, the three friends who had Blanche, was singing there that night. We were asked, "Can you back up Joe Villa and the three friends?" Because we had the band. And so, yeah, that's great. So we backed up Joe Villa and the three friends. There was Tony Grahaski, Frankie Starpoli, and Joe Villa. And we backed them up. They liked us so much. They said, "Will you guys come to New York and come over to 1650 where our manager is? We're going to do a recording session, and we'd love you guys to be the band." Well, we were on cloud nine. This was wonderful. So we go over to New York, and Leo, who looked at us, Leo was great, he promised you the world, and you got nothing, like everybody else in those days. Yeah. Leo says, now we had tremendous talent in this group. Leo says, "Well, maybe I can use you guys, but I don't want to rush into this. I've got a stable of talent here. And if you guys can play the background music for free on all of these,"
for free.
And we were in the studio for about 6 or 8 months. Now, Gordio's father, he was a tough guy, tough Italian guy. He said, "I'm going to break your neck, Leo, unless you let these guys make their own record." And then we recorded Short Shorts.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, we did the Brooklyn Fox Theater together. That was the Alan Freed concert series was at the Brooklyn Fox. The first one was at the Brooklyn Paramount. Then he moved into the Brooklyn Fox, and the Brooklyn Fox was on DeKalb, in Brooklyn. And we did 10 days there. Now that lineup, you couldn't do that again in a million years. That lineup had Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, the Everly Brothers, Frankie Avalon,
Ponytails.
Ponytails, Jimmy Clanton.
Yeah.
Little Anthony came in for a couple of days, and then they were gone. Even Dion did a couple of days, and they were gone. They filled in a couple of spots there. The Everly Brothers only played a few days. The Kalin Twins did a song called "When." But you're talking about maybe 20 acts. Joanne Campbell, Teddy Randazzo. So bingo. This is where I met, Tom. We met at the Brooklyn Fox for 10 days.
Yeah.
And there was I don't know, 6 shows a day for 10 days.
Oh, at least. We'd start like 10 in the morning.
6 shows a day for 10 days. The lines were around the corner, $2.50 to see the show. $2.50. You can't buy a Hershey bar for $2.50 today. And then on a Sunday, which the one day that they were off, we took a couple of the guys. Actually, we took 2. I forgot who was. I always keep forgetting who the second person was. But Bobby Freeman was one of the guys. He did "Do You Want to Dance?" Bobby Freeman came from California, and we were going to go home and eat because we were eating Junior's cheesecake across the street. That's what we were eating. There was no food, and we went home and Grandma and Mom they cooked for us, and I brought Bobby Freeman, who was an African American. He never seen a brajol in his life, So next thing I know, he's sitting there, he's eating with 2 hands and a foot, trying to. He said, "My God, this is delicious. What do you call this?" I said, "A brajol." A what? Yeah, I said, "You're going to remember that when you get back to California?" What do you eat? They ate an umbrella. You don't know what they ate.
No, that's upstairs at the Brooklyn Fox Theater.
Yes.
That's Frankie Avalon with the guitar. That's me with hair. That's Joanne Campbell, and that's Frankie Avalon's cousin. behind Joanne
Joanne Campbell was on every Alan Freed show. They used to call her the blonde bombshell. She was about 4'5", maybe she was even that tall. I don't think so. And she used to wear what they called at that time pedal pushers.
Yeah.
You know, which I think now they're capris. Yeah, they were clam diggers. They were this. They were. But at that time, she was wearing pedal pushers. Beautiful, beautiful girl.
She really was, yeah.
I was just telling Tommy earlier, when she finally retired, she married a guitar player, and they moved to Ohio, to Cleveland, Ohio. And one day in the winter, they were sitting in front of the fireplace, and went to get her 45s. They started listening to 45s. And as they were listening to the 45s, the husband picked up his guitar, and he started to write a couple of songs. And the one song that he started to write, he started to sing In the Still of the Night first. And then all of a sudden he went off to another area, and he wrote the lyrics to this beautiful ballad and kept In the Still of the Night in one section of the song. I forget the name of the song, but the song went on to become a multi-million sales for Ronnie Millsap. Close your eyes, baby. I can't think of it. Lost in the 50s. Thank you. Thanks, Carl. Lost in the 50s, he wrote. That was Ronnie Millsap, and it came from her fireplace in Cleveland, Ohio. You know, so little trivia there, another little piece of trivia.
Where did we get that name? That's a good question, because we called ourselves the Royals. But Leo, the manager, said when we had Short Shorts, he said, you can't be the Royals. There's the 5 Royales. Yeah, there's this Royals, that Royals. So I'm going to put teens on it. Now I'm 85 years old, and you know what this is like to go out. I hated it. We all hated it because it was limiting us, you know. And but the band was designed to self-destruct. And I'll tell you how this happened, and I think this is a very important story of rock and roll. We were playing the Princeton prom in Princeton. And they had, on one end of the gymnasium, they had Les Brown's band. You all know who Les Brown's, that big brand of renown. At the other end of the gymnasium, they had another big band, like 14-piece band, you know. And then they had Chuck Berry on one quarter court. We were across from him on the underneath the other basket, and then 2 more groups. So Leo, the manager, says he always had to get tea. I got to get a glass of tea. So he this night, well, first of all, he told us we were going to get, I think, $300 for the gig, you know. And we said, okay, you know. So Leo had to get a glass of tea. So he leaves the building to go out and get tea somewhere. So this student comes up with a clipboard, and he said, well, you played your thing. Let me straighten up. I'm on the committee. I have your check here. Sign here. And it was like for $1,800, you know? And I go,
I caught him.
But this is what they were doing, you know.
Yeah, well, how many times did you do Dick Clark's show or the other show where you did the show?
Tony Marmarella.
They gave you the check. You turned the check over, you endorsed it, and gave it back to them.
Yeah.
They called that publicity. It was for publishing, you know.
For publicizing your record.
Yeah.
How dishonest that was, and yet everybody looks at Dick Clark. Oh, he was a wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Forget about it.
He was in the middle of it. You know.
We went. Can I keep talking?
Alan Freed had the name, you know, as the payroll, you know, the payola king and all that, but they were all doing it. Every single one of them. Every one of them.
You know.
And they took advantage of all the kids, you know. The only time we got a decent amount of money was because we were at ABC Paramount. You got a legitimate, you know, royalty check. Where everybody that was signed with independent labels, they never got a dime. And we talked to Johnny Maestro one time. Never got 10 cents for all the records he saw.
Well, Short Shorts came out on the Power label first, which was Leo's label, but then he sold it. at the time, it was one of the highest priced masters ever sold. He sold it to ABC Paramount for, I think it was $18,000.
Wow.
And so we got a couple of $100 a piece.
Oh, Jesus, no.
No, we did pretty
Yeah,
good.
no,
with
we got our money. I'm not. I really.
We
I was
did good.
I was thankful that.
Oh, yeah.
We were with Hull Records. That's what we were with, and Hull Records passed us over sold us, well, leased us over to ABC Paramount, and that's where the record came out on Apta Records, which was their subsidiary. But if we had stayed with Hull, I can almost guarantee you it would have been, the story would have been a little different.
Yeah.
Even though the woman was very helpful and good to us, but it was a normal situation. at that time.
It happened to everybody.
Yeah.
Neil Diamond talked about it happening to him.
Well, even Tommy James.
Yeah.
Tommy had the book out, the mob and the music, or something like that, where he said he never saw a dime, for quite a while. Too.
Well, there was a story about Jimmy Rogers. Do you remember that story?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he got his head broke.
He got a beating with.
Yeah.
They said it was a cop that beat him with a nightstick. I don't know how.
It was something that happened on an exit.
On the highway.
Yeah, on the highway.
But he had brain damage.
He had brain damage and everything. He was going after his royalties, I had heard. Yeah.
I know he was working about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, in between there. And he was just doing a solo act just with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And he was just doing it. But you could see he had a lot of issues.
It was quite a thing, And the other thing is we'd be traveling all across the country, and we would travel into Canada, go cross country. We'd go out for 50, 60 one-nighters on a bus.
Yeah.
And our shirts, we didn't have time to get a shirt. We would wear the shirt for 3 weeks, It never cleaned. It's sweat, put it on. They can't smell us, That was on our first tour with Buddy Holly. That's Buddy Holly's group. And that's Jerry Allison and on drums, Joe B. Malden on the bass. But look over to my right. Do you see that bass drum that says Royal on it?
Yeah, your drums are up there.
Yeah, we had just finished playing. The Jersey Boys came to Broadway. Bob Gordio sent me tickets to the show, my wife Lorraine, who's in the back there. So I was so excited, they're playing short shorts, the whole thing, and it was very emotional to see Bobby do well. So good, He was the first one to really make it big.
Oh, sure.
And so the next day, I painted that picture. If it goes back to
that's the other thing I want to tell them.
Okay, I did that painting. I call it Short Season. Now, there's Frankie Valley in the bottom signing prints, me in the middle, and Bob Gordio signing prints. But what's interesting about that picture, it just came to me to do it. You see that black Oldsmobile with the convertible top on it? That's Gordio's first car. The car, the white Chrysler 300 in the middle of the street, that's Frankie Valley's first car.
Wow.
The Oldsmobile is Tommy DeVito's first car. The green Pontiac in front of Bob Gordio's car, that's Charlie Calillo's car. Charlie did all their arranging.
Did everybody's arranging.
Everybody. Now, if you look down the street, you'll see a red and white 57 Ford, Fairlane 500 going into a parking garage. That's the car we wrote Short Shorts in, okay, that I was telling you about. And you see the Plymouth, the Fury, the blue one going across the street, that was Billy Dalton's car. So I went down to New York. I had some prints made after. I still have the master of that painting. And I had some prints made up, and I went down and I saw Frankie Valley and Gordio were in the rehearsing. They needed a lot of Frankie Valleys, okay, because they had shows going all over the place. Yeah. So they used to call it the Frankie Valley College, okay? So I went there, and I gave them each one of those pictures. Well, Bobby loved it. And he wanted... He immediately said, I got to have stationery with this on it, and you got to make greeting cards with it on it. So I made Christmas cards that said, Season's Greetings. Right across. So that went
that's nice.
Right?
That's nice.
And so they made Christmas cards, and they made note cards, 10 cards to a pack. It was really done nicely. And so they were selling those,
No, he's actually, how many people saw the movie Jersey Boys? Everybody, almost everybody, right?
Yeah.
Well, Short Shorts is in the movie, and it also explains the fact that Bob Gordio was there too, which also gave you the opportunity to get a check.
Well, my name's in the credits. So.
Yeah. They gave
Yeah,
you
but it was really good. But as good or bigger than that as we had the Nair commercial for, I think, 12 years. And that was huge,
Oh, yeah.
the
Oh,
Nair
yeah.
commercial. So, yeah,
Did you ever write a song with Bob Gordio for the Four Seasons?
no, never did.
Yeah, Bobby wrote. Matter of fact, he even wrote. He said his favorite song that he ever wrote was by the brothers, Scott Brothers or something Brothers, something Sunshine.
Okay.
I can't. I'll think of it before the end of the show. But he wrote that. He wrote that song, and they did it, but it was not a hit for the Four Seasons, and the brothers, quote unquote. I think of the Scott Brothers. I don't know what, but. They did this particular song, and it's actually one of my favorite. I love the job that those guys did on it. And if you listen to it, it's a little like Ragdoll. It's almost the same feel and everything as Ragdoll. But the minute you hear it, you say, God, Bobby Gordio.
Yeah.
But but it was so far fetched. Everybody said can't be.
This one's a good. This is
Yeah.
kind of. This is an embarrassing.
There's the one I
picture.
would have shot myself if that was me.
As soon as Short Shorts came out, McGregor Clothes said, "Oh, we got to have shorts for men." So believe it or not, we were the first to wear these Bermuda shorts, and they said, "We'll pay you each $500 if you wear these and get a picture." And we hated it, but we did it.
I would have given them $500 not to take that picture. I laughed like hell when I saw that.
That's Diane Costello, Diana Lee, she called herself. But she was with us on the record, and she toured with us and everything. Is a lovely girl. She was really nice. Yeah, that's Billy Dalton, the guy, the small guy. And that's Bobby Gordio behind him, and Larry Qualiano behind Bobby, and that's me on the end.
All right. Short Shorts.
Short
I never
Shorts.
understood why Bermuda shorts with a record called Short Shorts. You know?
And did you see the socks? And
Yeah,
all
oh
that?
yeah.
Oh, boy.
I didn't miss them.
was
All you needed was a
awful.
lawnmower. Yeah. We did the tour too. We did the 30 days, 30 nights, 30 different states in 30 days. You did the show. You got on the bus. You went home. You went to the hotel. You got up in the morning. You went sound check, show, leave, back to the hotel. You never saw the town. We were in 30 different states and Canada. And here we go. There's the clock right there.
Oh, there! Look at that. Yeah, yep.
Short Shorts was up there.
We did the first. We were the first act on when he did his first national television show from the Little Theater in New York. First nationally televised show.
Right.
We were on that show. Connie Francis was on that. Pat Boone was on that. From the Little Theater in New York, yeah. But this was, that's what he had in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
that was down at his thing.
I have that photo or that board with him standing in front of it with the rest of us, and Little Star was up on the top.
Sure.
With that one. We got that.
That was great.
There's the ABC Paramut.
There it is. Yep, that was
Short
the record.
Shorts. Thank God. And even Ray Charles was on that label too at the time.
Oh, that was a powerful label.
That's where I
yeah.
first met Ray Charles. I mean, God almighty.
Yeah.
I was in shock when I met him. I had gone up to the office to pick up some paperwork, and he had been in there. He just signed with, I think he went from Atlantic. He came, or vice versa, but he was at ABC Paramount, and they introduced me. He shook my hand. It was like shaking God's hand at that time. I was a big Ray Charles fan.
Oh, Ray Charles was as
There's,
good as they
there's
got.
the old plaid jackets.
That's the plaid jackets.
We all had those. Yeah.
There's a good story about those plaid jackets.
Towncraft.
Can I absolutely.
Towncraft.
But I'll tell you what happened. We've talked about the Buddy Holly thing and all that, and there's a lot of long stories that come out of here. Let's go back to 10 years ago. We did your show.
Yeah.
With the Royalties,
Yep.
and a guy named Dave Kapulski was here.
Yes. Yeah.
And Dave Kapulski is a disc jockey. And he came to me after the show and he said, Summer's over. Do you know Summer's? I said, yeah. He said
Yeah.
something. He said, are you the Tom Austin from Tom Austin and the Healys?
Wow.
And I said, yeah, yeah. He said, oh my God. Then we became good friends. And now Vito's, you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame out there in
Well, the
Cleveland.
song is, we aren't. The
Well,
song, there's an exhibit there for Little Star.
And us too.
Yeah.
But he got the Royalties into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, and we were on display there for
Yeah,
years.
yeah. Did you do the Surf Ballroom?
Clear Lake, Iowa.
Yeah, you did that, right?
Yeah.
Have you done it recently, or did it during the first tour?
I did it the first tour.
During the tour.
Yeah.
We did it, I think 3 times we did it already. We've done a couple of anniversaries for the Buddy Holly, the day that the music died. And actually, you're standing on the spot of the stage that Buddy Holly was singing on the day before he wound up in that plane crash. It's the eeriest feeling in the world. I mean, while I was singing up there, and up on the screen, the place holds a couple of thousand people, and up on the top of the rafters, they had the picture of Buddy up there while we were singing.
Yeah.
Very eerie.
Very
feeling.
emotional.
You know, I'll tell you a quick story, only because it's interesting and it ties into the Surf Ballroom. The Surf Ballroom was where the tour went. What they used to call it, the winter garden party, the winter party.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the last place that Buddy wound up singing. From there, they decided to take the plane, and then the plane only went down a few miles away. And we went on to the cornfield, and we went to the location. They got a little monument there and everything. But while we were there, after the show, you sign autographs and sell CDs. So we're sitting there, and there's a line of people, almost 100 people online, waiting to buy CDs and everything. So this woman comes up, I'll take 2 CDs, and okay, fine, we autograph them and give them to her, and she goes into her purse, and she says, oh my God, I didn't take my wallet. I didn't put my wallet in this purse when I changed pocketbooks. Blah, blah, blah. You know, I know it wasn't a con job. I mean, the woman was, obviously she was embarrassed and everything. So I said, don't worry about it. Just take the CDs. No, I got to take the CDs. They're a gift. I said, take them. She's tying up the whole line, So she goes away. Thank you. The next day, this big burly guy comes walking over and he goes, you Vito? I said, yeah. He says, you were with my wife last night, he says. That's what he said. You were with my wife last night. I said, holy God, somebody get a gun, You guys are too big for me, I said, He said, my wife was the one that didn't have the money for the CDs. I said, so he said, I understand. Don't worry about it. No. I want to pay for the 2 CDs, and I want to buy 2 more, and I brought you a gift. I said, I don't want no gift. You got to have the gift because I made it specifically done. It's got to be given to you. I said, well, where is it? He said, it's outside. I'm not going outside with this guy. So it 17 below zero at the time. That was warm up there.
Oh.
Matter of fact, Bobby Rydell was with us. He was sweating when he walked off the stage. He had icicles on his face. He says, what the hell are we doing here? He says. Matter of fact, he said something else. He said in Italian, "Quando siete freddo," he said, I said, you're not kidding, buddy. So wind up now, I go out. I said, look, bring it to the stage door, and I'll meet you by the stage door. I'm not going out there. So I go to the stage door, and he comes. He's got a box about this big, this high, and he puts it down by the door. So I open the door, and I see this box here. He said, this is yours. I said, I got to fly back to New York. What am I going to do with this thing? He said, you go to Kmart, you buy a tub, you tape it up with duct tape. I'm honest, you got to have it. I did it specifically for you. I said, what is it? He said, well, you were so good to my wife, he said, and what you did was amazing, he said. I own a ranch 20 miles away from here, and I butchered a steer for you. He said, so you got so many pounds of chopped meat, you got rib steaks in here, you got filet mignon in here. Are you kidding me? So first I think he's kidding, but he was stone serious. So the irony of the whole thing was, it was the best thing that could have happened. The band that was going to play for us, we didn't know them. The night before when we got in, we went to a steakhouse and we had a steak dinner. And when we went to pay the bill, the waitress says, there is no bill, it was paid for. I said, who paid for our bill? He said, the fellas at that table on the other end. It was the band. They paid for our dinner. Wow. So I said, no, I can't do that. I'll pay for it. It's already paid for, she said. We ran the card. It's already done. So I went over, and I thanked them and everything. They lived in Chicago. Chicago is about 3-hour drive from Clear Lake, Iowa. I gave them the box of steak. They put it in their van. They drove for 3 hours to Chicago. A week later, I got a call. Vito, we barbecued that stuff. It was delicious.
That's a good story.
Yeah. So it's like I said, there's more interesting things that happen, and you wind up taking it on. You take it for granted because it was just. We were kids. We never thought about anything. Those people were not. We went to Hawaii. We had all the schools closed, sitting on the tarmac, waiting for us. It was nothing for us. It was nothing. No money. We didn't care about how much we were getting paid. We were having a good time.
And we were just like everybody else.
Absolutely.
We were just fortunate. We had these records, but it was like, how did this happen? That's the way I felt.
The one thing, matter of fact, Dion called me the other day. We were on the phone for about an hour, and he started talking about things like that. And he remembered one time he went to this place where he had a little problem in this club that he had gone to while we had a couple hours off, and he said, yeah, I said it was in he mentioned a place in Ohio. And I said no, and I said, that was in Toledo, Ohio. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah, it was in Toledo, Ohio. He thought it was Akron, Ohio. I said, no, it was Toledo, Ohio. And the name of the club was T-Bones. And I said, I remembered because it was an under 18-year-old club. So it was a teen club. And he remembered that whole thing. So then he went into, what it was all about and what happened that night. And we laughed about it. But, we got 4 guys from the Bronx, 4 Italian kids from the Bronx, 5 Italian kids from Staten Island, so much in common, and we didn't even know each other. And all of a sudden, we had a relationship that's lasted 70 or 60, almost 80, 68 years, like this friendship right here.
Yeah.
This is 68 years of friendship. I love this guy like as much as I did the day that I met him. And he showed you a picture that he painted. Okay.
Yeah.
He paints better than Rembrandt.
Oh.
I've seen stuff that he's done. He gave me a gift. You gave me the gift of that ship that you did. I mean, the sails and the stuff. And I could never in a billion years, not even if it was that numbers, like colored numbers, I could do it that good. I said, oh my God, Almighty. He's very talented, very talented. And he also had what do you call it? You had the boat. You had a boat for quite a while.
Yeah.
And you were in the real estate business.
Oh, 54 years.
54
I was
years.
in real estate. I had a little company. My wife and I ran it, and we were appraisers, and that's how we earned our living. We have 2 sons and 5 grandchildren now, and
anyway,
they're married, doing all right.
I tell you what, I can talk another 6 hours. We're actually running out of time. What do we got? A couple of minutes left? 2 minutes left? No, not even 2 minutes. Okay, so I got to talk faster than that. All right. Anyway, Tommy, thanks so much, buddy. I love you, brother.
Love you, Vito.
Man.
Love you, man.
All right. How about it, huh? The best.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
hey,
you.
Don't forget now we've got Parma out there. Parma, P-A-R-M-A. It's Parma's Pizzeria and Restaurant. Incredible food and pizza and stuff over there. We've been there. I've been there 3 times in the last 4 days. How do you like this? And also we got Country Donuts, of course. Parma's over on Victory Boulevard by the West Shore Expressway, and over on Richmond Avenue and Arthur Kill. We got Country Donuts. They're always there for us, and I want to say thank you to them. And if you go to Parma, say hello to Paulie. Tell Paulie you saw us here on the show. Okay, he'll give you a 1 Zeppelin for nothing. That's all right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.